Welcome to episode 80 of the Brainy Business, Understanding the Psychology of Why People Buy. Today's mini episode is about the importance of celebrating. Ready? Let's get started.
You are listening to the Brainy Business Podcast, where we dig into the psychology of why people buy and help you incorporate behavioral economics into your business, making it more brain-friendly. Now here's your host, Melina Palmer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melina Palmer, and I want to welcome you to the Brainy Business Podcast. Merry and happy holidays to you all, whatever you celebrate or don't, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are surrounded by joy, friends, family, and everything else good as we close out 2019. Can you believe it's almost the end of another year? And we've hit a milestone here on the podcast with 80 completed episodes now. So much to celebrate. And as you'll learn today, it's very important to celebrate everything. Yes, everything. Big, small, momentous, or seemingly mundane. Celebration is great for our brains. This is based on a lot of the foundations I shared with you in episode 76 on the Brainy Benefits of Gratitude. So I won't get into that too much again here. You can find a link to that episode and all the other articles and things I referenced throughout today's show within the app you're listening to or in the show notes at thebrainybusiness.com/80. Woohoo! If you're already on the Brainy Business list, you have direct links to the episode and most current content in the email you get from me every Friday, as well as access to the super secret subscriber page with all the freebies. To get access to that and your spot on the list, simply sign up for any freebie from the Brainy Business and you'll be automatically added. Those of you in the States can sign up super easy by texting the word Brainy, BRAINY, to 33777, and you get a free copy of my ebook as a thank you. And the subscribers list is the first thing I'll celebrate in this episode. The Brainy Business list has grown by 170% in 2019. Wow. I know there's been constant growth and new names adding to the list each day, but it feels different when you take the time to stop and run the report. This is the benefit of framing, looking at the data from multiple angles to see what it all means and says to you. Sometimes the hard numbers are the most meaningful. Sometimes this is a percentage or something else. It is all worth taking the time to celebrate and be grateful for. I mentioned the gratefulness episode, and that is linked in the show notes. But as a quick refresher, being grateful breeds happiness. It also makes people more creative and they sleep better. When we're grateful, the people around us are happier and we perform better in life and work, have better memory retention and better relationships. It's all around a great thing. And celebrating is very similar to that. Celebrating allows you to slow down, be thoughtful, and reflect on the great things you've done, to really look at the achievement in front of you. Many of us achievers out there, I've chosen to no longer use the term overachiever because I want to achieve even bigger things than I think are possible today, and you should too. So, for us achievers in the world, I'm guessing that's you if you have chosen to listen to this podcast. We tend to keep our eyes on the prize. We haven't made it yet, and so every milestone along the way is just a check mark on the road to greatness. But it needs to be more than that. Otherwise, what's the point? If you remember from last week in the episode on tradition and the week before when I interviewed Nir Eyal, our brains choose to do what has felt good in the past. Our experiences are shaped by our actions, not the other way around. So when we're looking for the things to celebrate, marking those days in our memory as achievements and things to feel good about, our brain will look for more. We can boost ourselves up and create a more positive outlook on life. David Campbell, a former senior fellow with the Center for Creative Leadership, has said this in such a fantastic way, I have to share it with you. He says, "Celebrations are the punctuation marks that make sense of the passage of time. Without them, there are no beginnings and no endings. Life becomes an endless series of Wednesdays." Whether you are particular to the joys of Wednesday or not, you get the point. And what a dull and dreary existence that would be. What if instead you can look back and reflect and say, that was the day I achieved inbox 0, and the following week was the day I had so many amazing requests come in that I couldn't get back to inbox 0 for 3 days. I love celebrating, and for as long as I can remember, I've always really defaulted to finding the silver lining in any experience. My first real email address was rosecoloredglasses@emailprovider.com. Not a joke. That really was rose-colored glasses. The account is long gone, but my outlook remains, and you deserve the joy that comes with celebrating as well. If you work in a business or ever have, you've likely experienced an annual review. What have those been like? Enjoyable, a celebration, or a mundane checkbox formality? If you have employees, do you make the time to celebrate them at their annual review? I always did, and it made the process so much more enjoyable and rewarding. When you sit down to write a review, much like when I sat down to write this episode, you think, what did I do this year? You might catch a few of the highlights, more than you realized at first, but how many amazing things fell through the cracks if you didn't celebrate them at the time? I always encouraged my employees to keep a list of milestones throughout the year. I told them, something I'm sure I learned from a boss or mentor along the way, to keep a notepad easily accessible or a Word doc on their desktop so they could track wins as they came in. Everything big and small goes on the list. Then, when it's time to write the annual review, there's a huge list of accomplishments to start from. It makes for such a great experience, an opportunity to talk about the benefits of the year, and just makes you feel good. Just like nostalgia, which we talked about last week, it warms you up. I must admit, I haven't been the best at keeping up with this process since becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I should, and I will use my Be Thoughtful notebook to do that moving forward. Did you hear those are coming out in 2020? That's a big accomplishment I'm excited about. And if you want to be on the list to be the first to know when they're available, use the link in the show notes to fill out a form with your address and details. And I'm guessing a few lucky people who fill out their info in advance with that physical address might just get a surprise in the mail. So it's worth it to put your name on the list now. So again, the link for the form to get kindness in the physical mail from me, including little handwritten notes and maybe a surprise here or there, and to be the first to know when the Be Thoughtful notebook is available for pre-sale, is in the show notes for you. Like I said, I didn't do a great job of taking notes of things to celebrate throughout the year, but upon reflection, what an amazing year it was, with lots of great things to celebrate. And I remember them all pretty well because I did celebrate them as they happened with my husband, family, mastermind group, and close friends. Here's a bit of the highlights to help you think of your own great stuff to celebrate from 2019. The Brainy Business blew past 100,000 downloads with listeners in over 150 countries. We'll very likely surpass 120,000 downloads before the end of the year. And considering it took about 16 months to hit 100,000, that's a great trajectory. I launched 2 courses that both made money on their first time out, and we already have people signing up for the 2020 courses. This is your last chance to take advantage of the sale prices, by the way, with 50% off the Brainy Mindset course and a BOGO on the Big Brainy Bundle, where you get all 3 pieces, the Brainy Pricing course plus virtual workshop, and the Brainy Mindset course, a $1,200 value for just $599 when you use your code BRAINY100 off. That deal ends December 31st, next week, so don't wait. I'm not going to get into it any more than that, but all the details are at thebrainybusiness.com/courses for anyone who wants to check it out. I was offered and started a column with Inc.com. I went to visit Texas A&M and started doing research with them. So cool. I spoke to audiences around the country and led workshops abroad. I completed my master's in behavioral economics with a published white paper through the Filene Research Institute and walked at a graduation ceremony, an important way to celebrate. I got to go back to Rome and show my husband where I used to live, and we wrapped up our visits to all 50 states. There were amazing partnerships and connections and possible working relationships slated for 2020. So many cool projects underway. All this amidst a much more balanced family life and bringing some exercise back in the mix, running a 5K in New York with my husband on Thanksgiving and seeing the Macy's parade in person. And as you maybe saw on social media, where you can find me as the Brainy Biz, I French braided my 3-year-old's hair, which I joke is quite possibly the biggest achievement of them all. What about you? What can you celebrate from 2019? Dig deeper. Get down to all the amazing little things you did, not little at all, and know there are so many you couldn't even count them all. It's not all about the big stuff. Those little wins matter too. Sometimes we celebrate just getting our work done when we have a head cold, like I'm doing today, as you might have heard a little bit, or following up on a lead, or checking one thing off the to-do list. Anything can be worth celebrating, and I want to hear about your achievements on social media. Will you share them with me? Will you give me a top 3 or 5 or 10? Maybe one really big one and one obscure one or something funny. Who cares? I just want to celebrate with you. Come find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as The Brainy Biz, that's B-I-Z, so we can celebrate together. One thing you'll see when you go to those accounts is a big milestone I got to celebrate for someone else recently. I'm recording this before it happens, but by the time this releases, it will have happened already. My dad, who is a captain for American Airlines and has flown there for nearly 35 years, is retiring. His last flight will be on December 19th. And I'm going to be on it. Interestingly enough, it is the first time I will have ever been on a flight while he's the pilot. It's kind of my last chance. My dad is actually a really, really, really shy guy, and he would seriously hate to know I'm sharing this on the podcast. So I'm going with a forgiveness, not permission approach. This apple fell very far from the tree in that case, but my dad is awesome. He instilled my love of the Beatles, and we used to talk about astronomy when I was a kid and how the brain worked and just have big thinking conversations for as long as I can remember. And even though he was gone a lot, he was always there for the big milestones. I don't remember a ballet recital or choir concert he wasn't there for when I was growing up. And I'm so glad I get to be there for him on this last flight with American. And not just because it means I get to spend a couple days in Maui before the flight back to Dallas. I will be going over to Maui to get some CEO planning time done on my business. And then some of the family and a couple of my dad's friends and I are going to be hopping on standby, and hopefully we all make the flight. I'm so glad I have a business and a very supportive husband that allows me to make this shift. I got the call that my dad found out when the last flight would be and where, and that there was space where we could stand by and should all be able to get on the flight, and that it was from some reasonable location, as my dad has been doing almost exclusively international flights recently. It all just came together, and in the same night, I booked a flight to Maui and a hotel for 10 days later. Not everyone could have done that, and I'm grateful for my life and mindset that allowed this to be a blessing I can work in and not something that brings overwhelming stress. Because family and celebrations matter. Dad, I don't know if you'll hear this. I guess this is a test of who really listens to the podcast, but I'm so proud of you and honored to be able to celebrate with you. Congratulations. And with that, I want to wrap up the year and this mini episode, 80 episodes of the Brainy Business Podcast, by saying thank you to you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for making this year amazing. Thanks for subscribing and your reviews, and for checking out the ebook and free mini course and recommending the podcast to friends, and for following and sharing wins with me on social media. Thank you for your questions and curiosities. Thank you for opening up your lives to me and for letting me into your earbuds and car stereos. Thank you for all the drives we've taken together and workouts at the gym. And thank you for celebrating with me along the way. Please do pop over to social media. Whatever your favorite channel is, you can find me as The Brainy Biz and share your wins with me. Whenever you listen to this, I want to celebrate with you. Maybe it's a time you used behavioral economics in your business after hearing me give a tip and it worked. Earlier this year, I had someone send me a meme in an email about sharing something you heard on a podcast at a meeting and looking super smart in front of your boss. And it was one of my favorite emails all year. That's someone I had never met before, and she knows who she is. And we have been talking about a lot of stuff since then. I really just love getting feedback and hearing from you all. Know that anyone out there, you're never a bother. Please let me celebrate with you. The world and all our brains need more joy and celebration. So let's do it together. I'll see you on the socials, and here's to an amazing 2020 together. And just like that, this mini episode on the importance of celebrating is done. Next week on episode 81, the first of the new year, I'll be giving some tips on the best way, proven by science, to incorporate behavioral change that sticks. It's going to be life-changing. You won't want to miss it. Until then, thanks again for listening and learning with me. And remember to be thoughtful.
Thank you for listening to the Brainy Business Podcast. Melina offers virtual strategy sessions, workshops, and other services to help businesses be more brain-friendly. For more free resources, visit thebrainybusiness.com.